Earlier today, Draymond Green made a claim that he's the greatest defensive player in NBA history. Now, I had a very straightforward reaction to this. It legitimately sounded something like that, because that's pretty ridiculous, right? The man has one Defensive Player of the Year award. There are guys who have four of them. There are guys like Hakeem Olajuwon who were just known as being, much greater defensive players, all-time leader in blocks. Bill Russell was, easily the greatest defensive player of his era. Draymond Green cannot be the greatest defensive player of all time. All right, come on. Like, that's just... You gotta be joking, you know what I'm saying? The man has 5 all-defense teams and 1 Defensive Player of the Year. Obviously a great defender, but the greatest of all time? It's looking kinda sus. But I decided, Draymond Green has been pretty underrated, alright? He gets slandered by the media for stuff unfairly, and his defense does not get enough credit sometimes, so I'm gonna look into it. We're going to go through some Draymond Green stuff, and we're going to see if maybe he isn't completely bonkers. So looking at Draymond Green's overall stats, for his career, the man averages 9 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 43% from the field, 32% from 3, 71% from the free throw line. Obviously, offense is not Draymond Green's thing. Now, he is a great passer for a dude who generally plays power forward and once in a while small ball center. But, that's about it. He's 6'6", so 7 rebounds a game is fine, but it's not anywhere near some great amount, and he's only averaged more than 1 full offensive rebound a game 4 times in his career, and he's never managed to average 2. So he's not some, rebounding beast like Dennis Rodman, who's a guy that people often compare Draymond to. He won the steals title in 2017 with 2 steals a game, and he averages 1.5 steals a game for his career, as well as 1 block. The most blocks he's ever averaged in a game is 1.4, so he's not some great shot blocker either. And you go to look at fouls, the man's kinda sus when it comes to foul calls as well. He averages 3 fouls a game for his career, and outside of his rookie season, he has never averaged less than 2.6 fouls a game. So the man isn't like some dude, like some, Jimmy Butler, Kawhi Leonard type, who literally never fouls an opposing player. He builds up those fouls. Now, granted, some of those are probably, technical fouls and offensive fouls, but still, the man builds up fouls. So immediately his case is looking just really frickin' sus. Now, 5 all-defense teams is legit. Alright, he absolutely deserved every single one of those teams. The man has been huge for the Golden State Warriors. If you look from 2013 when Draymond got on the team, and actually 2013, we'll ignore that one because that one, it was only a slight mark, but you look 2014 through now, with the exception of last season, the 2020 season, the Warriors have had a significantly above average defensive rating. Well, significantly is a stretch. Have had an above average defensive rating, and you look at the players on this team. Draymond has spent a lot of his career playing with Steph Curry, and even though Steph Curry is overhated on defense, he's not a great defender. Okay, he is an average at best defender. Draymond Green has to make up for that. They generally don't have any kind of elite defensive center. He's playing with Zaza and JaVale McGee for a long time. Not exactly the greatest defensive players. Klay Thompson is a very good defender, but I don't think anyone is going to try to argue that he is better than Draymond Green. And then you look at the bench, the Warriors have never really had some elite defensive player coming off their bench either. They are much more so in the Steph Curry era, a team based around offense, and they let Draymond Green and Klay Thompson carry the defense. And Draymond Green has really done an excellent job. Looking at the advanced stats on their own, at least the ones I have, it's nothing crazy. The man has managed to build up 31 defensive win shares over his career, and he had a solid stretch from 2015, 16, and 70 where he averaged over 5 defensive win shares in each of those seasons. That is really impressive. Alright, not to mention his defensive box plus minus is 3 for his career, which is a very, very solid number, even if maybe not quite the number that I would call all-time great. The man's a solid defender. I would never try to say he isn't. So let's look at what Draymond Green's best defensive attribute is, and that is his IQ. Now, Draymond Green is a very switchable defender, but it's not just because of his physical abilities. Now, the man's 6'6", 230 pounds, he's relatively fast, and he's a very, very strong player. He said before, even though he went back on it and claimed he didn't for some reason, that he based some of his defensive game off of Ben Wallace, and you can see it. They're actually pretty similar when it comes to build. Now, Ben Wallace was a million times better of a post defender and a shot blocker, but Draymond Green is very similar. He's a smaller guy who uses his weight, his low center of gravity, and his strength to hold off much bigger players. Now, I would never want Draymond Green switched on to Joel Embiid in the post or Nikola Jokic, although Nikola Jokic plays a little more in the mid-range, so I wouldn't mind it as much with him, but he is very much capable of switching onto a center when he needs to, at least the, average post-up center, not quite the best one in the league like Joel Embiid, but there's really nobody in the league who can stop Joel Embiid one-on-one, so that's a little unfair. Now, the thing with Draymond Green, he is not an elite defender at any position. That may be taking it too far. Before you get up in arms, he is a very good defender at multiple positions. I would not call him the best defender in the league against centers, the best defender in the league against forwards, the best against guards, etc. However, he is very, very good against any forward and any guard because of his size and strength and IQ, and he is very much capable of switching onto the perimeter for defense. Now, he's not an elite perimeter defender by any means, but he can absolutely get the job done. There are plenty of clips you can see where he switches onto a guy like James Harden in the playoffs, and he's able to stop him on the perimeter, and this is because of his IQ. That is Draymond Green's best defensive weapon, is his basketball IQ. He's an incredibly smart player. You can see when he switches on the perimeter, he'll do, he doesn't get a ton of steals or blocks, but he fakes going for them to throw the defender off. He's very smart with his hands, and even though he's not the fastest, he is very smart with moving his feet and determining where an offensive player is going to go. And this lets him take on guys like James Harden, even though he's not going to get them every single time by any means, okay? He's not quite on the Ben Simmons level. He's very much capable of switching on to elite perimeter creators. He is also a fantastic help defender, and this is once again basketball IQ. He's very, very good at watching the passing lanes or knowing when to switch, when to come over and give help defense. The man is one of the best help defenders in NBA history. Alright, he 100% earned that 2017 Defensive Player of the Year, even though I personally believe it should have gone to Kawhi Leonard. I think you can make the opposite argument that in 2015 is when Draymond Green actually should have won the Defensive Player of the Year over Kawhi. But that's a debate for another day. We're not going to sit here and argue about that. But if you're looking at who is the best defensive player in NBA history, I think Kawhi is the perfect place to start. Kawhi Leonard also has a case for being the best defensive player in NBA history, and I would say at their peaks, I'd say Kawhi was better. Draymond Green is a slightly better help defender, but I would say that peak Kawhi was a better one-on-one defender. I don't think there was anyone better at his peak, which happened to come at the same time as Draymond's peak, at making a team better on defense, at locking down someone one-on-one. Not to mention Kawhi Leonard, it's a very slim difference between him and Draymond Green on help defense. Kawhi was fantastic. He's still a very good defender, don't get me wrong, but he used to be on another level, alright? Prime Kawhi was easily the best defensive player in the league, and he realistically should have 3 Defensive Player of the Years, in my opinion. Now, Draymond Green is great. He can switch, alright? He's great for the modern NBA, but his impact just doesn't quite reach the level of those all-time great rim protectors, the Hakeem Olajuwons, David Robinsons, Bill Russell, for example, Ben Wallace, even prime Dikembe Mutombo, although I would be completely willing to give you Draymond Green over Mutombo. I'm just saying, you're talking about impact, rim protection, has always been, although it's getting a little bit less every single year with the perimeter game, it has always been, and it still is, the most important part of defense. And even though Draymond is very, very good at switching onto a big, he is not on the same level of an elite shot-blocking, rim-protecting center. I do not think Draymond Green is the best defender in the NBA right now. I would not have him this season over Rudy Gobert or Ben Simmons just for starters. I do not think during their primes he was better than Kawhi Leonard, and if you're looking at all time, I don't think he was better than a guy like Hakeem Olajuwon, Tim Duncan, or Bill Russell. Draymond Green is a fantastic defensive player. You can make the argument that he's the most switchable defender in NBA history, and I think if you're going for that, Draymond, you've got a much better case for yourself. But in pure defensive talent overall, who is the greatest defensive player in NBA history? Well, that's a video I'm going to officially make at some time in the future, I promise, but I can tell you right now, number one will not be Draymond Green.